Are you really a woman? That's definitely a man. Oh, Aisha sounds like a boy. I still remember how it made me feel when he told me that. And I'm gonna really try and say this without crying. Nah, she gotta be a man in a wig. I still do feel that way sometimes. Hey guys, what's up? What it do? It's your girl Aisha, aka Ayomi, aka Mrs. 62, and I'm back with another YouTube video. I have been masculinized and misgendered my entire life. The first time I was ever called manly or masculine was when I was 10 years old. One time I went to the movies with my dad and my mom and an uncle, and then we went to get Chinese food, and I had an uncle tell me, "Wow, Aisha, you're just like your dad. You look just like a man." I was 10. I had never in my life been called a man. I had never in my life been told something so unwarranted by someone that I was supposed to be inspired by or look up to. And I still remember how it made me feel when he told me that. I remember bursting out into tears, crying, and my mom talked to him and he eventually apologized. And now that I'm older, I make social media content. I've gone viral on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I have been the subject of so much transphobia, so much masculinization of tall women, black women. I have had death threats. I have had disgusting things said about me and my femininity, and if I was a girl or a guy, and so many things that honestly at this point I've developed dissociative amnesia to forget the things that have been said to me in order to just feel okay as I am now. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because this is something that not only affects me but affects hundreds and thousands and millions of tall girls and black women out there today. I find femininity such an interesting word, and the way it's applied socially is so different from how I was raised. I always felt girly. I'm the first child, first daughter. I had a pink room. I loved pink. I loved dresses and skirts. I loved makeup, truly at my essence, because someone can dress masculine and still be a girl. But truly at my essence, I was a feminine girl. I was just blacker, I was just bigger, and I was just taller. But everybody ignored who I was inside and focused on what I portrayed. And that goes into my first point, how femininity is often portrayed in the media. Small, dainty, light skin. Even the cartoons we would watch, even the black cartoons, you'd always see lighter skinned women being the wife, smaller woman, dainty woman, helpless woman. Not only was I tall and black, I'm also the oldest child. I'm also opinionated. I'm confident. I don't fit the stereotypes that were portrayed on social media as being feminine, or at least the physical attributes of what it meant to be feminine. And this is why TV pisses me off so much sometimes, is that they'll always make the dad darker and taller and the mom lighter and smaller, and then somehow the daughter also ends up looking like the mom and the son looks like the dad. And that's just not how it works all the time. I am my daddy's twin. There are a lot of black girls out there who don't look like their light-skinned moms. They look like their daddies. And when you get someone like me who is a tall woman, a dark-skinned woman, isn't like dainty, isn't tiny, and I was never skinny, there's a contrast in how we're perceived and treated in the media. And it was so hard for me to register that as a kid, because I was raised feminine, but I didn't look feminine to people. So getting these comments were always so confusing to me. And I have this whole belief that when people tell you who you are before you can figure out who you are, that really affects your self-perception, your self-esteem. And I think in this case, that's what happened to me. I started becoming very insecure about my looks because I felt as though telling me that I looked like a boy was telling me I looked ugly. But because I was always the tallest in the class, the darkest girl, no one treated me like a girl, you know, and I played sports, so I was always the fun sidekick, the fun friend, but I was never the girly, pretty one. And in turn, when you're a tall black woman especially, you're often seen but not valued. And that's because our physicalities are now associated with dominance and masculinity. And I'm sorry, like, I don't consider anything below 5'8" tall. I really will say 5'9" if I'm being honest with you, because I live in a world that not a lot of people understand and can experience. When you're above 6 foot, that is not something that a lot of women are. So it just brings into question your femininity naturally, automatically. People are naturally intimidated by you. They think you're strong. They think you're opinionated. They can even think you're bitchy. And then they can think you're masculine. Because once you cross that threshold in height in the 6 foot range, automatically that's just like male territory, supposedly. Height is not the only physicality associated with being masculine. If you are bigger or fatter, those are also things that I think can be associated with being masculine. Even One Piece, as I'm watching One Piece now, all the pretty women, like objectively pretty women, are skinny, and the evil women are always big women. As people, we don't realize how much the media is pushing into our brains what is masculine, what is feminine, what is pretty, what is ugly, what is good, what is bad, what is acceptable, and what isn't acceptable. There's a subconscious bias being formed by the televisions, the cartoons that we watch. And in turn, tall people, black people, big people, or even a voice, having a deep voice can be seen as not feminine and be seen as masculine and dominant. And for the longest time, and I'm gonna really try and say this without crying because it's something that I generally really felt like, wow, how could I have gotten all these things, you know? I was tall, I'm 6'2". I was big when I was younger, you know, I was fat. I struggled with weight my entire life. I didn't always have a deep voice, but I've gotten more lazy with my voice, so it sits lower now. I'm the first child, so I wasn't raised to be this like helpless, dainty woman. I'm a first daughter, so I was raised like a first son. I was raised to be a high achiever, to be successful, to be a good example. I was tall, I'm black, I was big. And it really felt like the odds were against me. And sometimes, like thinking back on it, I still do feel that way sometimes. And, you know, in turn, I was bullied a lot. I was bullied for everything. I was bullied for my voice. I was bullied for my height. I was bullied for being black. And the bullying always centered around misgendering me or making me feel masculine. Oh, Aisha sounds like a boy. Why do you sound like a man? One of the worst insults I've ever heard was in Saudi Arabia when they would run around calling me a lesbian because no man would ever want to date or talk to someone like me. And when I would complain, they would say, you should be lucky that we're even seeing you as a lesbian because we're calling you a girl when you're not really a girl. I always thought, like, why did God give me all these traits? And it wasn't that I didn't love myself. I didn't love how people perceived myself. And as a young girl, like I said, when people tell you who you are before you can figure out who you are, that affects your self-image. There's some like conflict there. As I was saying, a lot of physicalities can be associated with dominance and masculinity. Some people that come to mind on the top of my head are Michelle Obama. I feel so bad for Michelle Obama. She's one of the most smartest, most educated, graceful women ever. She is a Harvard grad, a Princeton alum, former First Lady of the United States. But what do people focus on? Her looks. They say that Obama married a man. They say that's Big Mike, as in like Michael Jordan. They call her a man. There are conspiracy theories about Michelle Obama not being a woman. All that woman has done is be herself, be an amazing First Lady, share her knowledge and wisdom, and yet, because her features are not deemed feminine, and especially since she's sitting in a position of power and hypervisibility, she is deemed masculine or dominant. It's so sad. Another example is Megan Thee Stallion. She has been subjugated to transphobia comments. She's been called a man. People have said she has a penis. I've just seen ridiculous things about Megan Thee Stallion. She is also a tall woman. Someone may say, oh, but there are tall models. Models have to be tall and they're pretty. Well, yes, not to say that all tall women are seen as masculine, but they are threatening, and threatening can be a positive thing, as in beauty and stature and poise, or it can be a negative thing, such as, oh, she's intimidating, she's that, is that even a woman? You guys know me as the tall, confident girl. Because I look up to my daddy, and he's a tall man, I was always proud and confident in my height. It's not something anyone could take away from me. I also played sports when I was younger. I really believed that me being tall was of value and added something to that. I had crushes on boys shorter than me in middle school. I didn't really deep the whole height thing. There was a disconnect for me personally. I had so many crushes, as young girls do when they're younger. I had crushes in middle school. I've had crushes since I was 6. Like literally, I was a tall girl and they were not tall. And especially since boys do not grow up or literally grow until they're much older, you're constantly going to be the tallest girl in the room, the tallest person in the room, and it makes dating or crushing as a young girl very awkward and uncomfortable. My options were very, very limited in high school and middle school. Now, I went to private schools, so I can only speak for that small circle, but there were only 3 to 4 guys that were taller than me in high school that I actually liked, and they liked shorter girls. They didn't even like tall girls, they liked shorter girls. Now, I'm not even saying that to come for anybody, but what do you expect from an 18-year-old boy? That's kind of how it goes. But the unfortunate side of that is that as a tall girl, you're feeling like you're too tall today, you don't have options, that no one will like you because you're too tall. And it really has more to do with those boys not being fully secure in their confidence yet to date someone that could match their height. So what happens when you're the tall girl that nobody wants to date or nobody can date? You become the tall best friend. This is a trope you even see in television as well. And because I played sports, I was the cool friend, the sidekick. Yo, Aisha, what's good? And what did that do? That actually put me more into that masculine box that people put onto me since I was young. It went from being bullied to, oh, that's a guy, to you're cool, but you're one of the bros, you're one of the guys, you're one of the homies. You are not desirable in a sexual, pretty beauty type of way. Them friend zoning you was just a nicer way of saying that, but it meant the same thing. They were still masculinizing your energy and your vibe. When it comes to fashion, nothing fit as a tall girl. I have so many videos of me with, tops that would literally end here, or pants or jeans that wouldn't go all the way down to my ankles. Skirts and shorts were too short. Crop tops would rise. I felt very awkward in my body a lot, more than I can even admit, honestly. Feel free to leave a comment on how this impacted your psychological thinking as a young, tall woman, how it impacted your dating life, your body image, your confidence, your identity, and your fashion. Now, that's just middle school and high school. When I got to college, obviously my options opened and I met more men who were taller and were into me, but I was still very much the homie to a lot of people. Now let's talk about how we can reclaim our femininity today. My personal journey for reclaiming my femininity has been a long one, and honestly, I feel like I'm still learning sometimes. I have dealt with my femininity being questioned to this day. It's honestly something that I think is going to be part of my life forever. I try to avoid that mindset by surrounding myself with like-minded people who see Black women and tall women as beautiful, being confident and self-assured in myself. I used to feel like, oh, what is wrong with me? I'm this tall, Black, fat girl when I was younger, and I'm given all these things that aren't deemed as pretty or deemed as feminine. Now my mindset is, I'm doing what makes me happy, and anyone that disagrees with that is deflecting or projecting their own insecurities. When you separate your self-identity and your self-expression, what makes you happy, from the people who are just projecting, it makes it so much easier to reclaim your femininity and live your life exactly how you want to live it. When it comes to styling, like I mentioned before, I've always been a feminine girl, even when I was younger. I like to wear makeup when I go out. I like long hair, not because it's gonna be feminine approaching like everyone says, but because it literally matches my face shape more. I've started looking at fashion and makeup that matches my face shape that I was given, and not following the stereotypical femininity route. I don't follow this is what's feminine and this is what's masculine. I follow what fits for my body shape. When it comes to how I move myself, how I speak, and how I show up confidently, I am unapologetically me. And people don't understand how important it is to be unapologetic. Unapologetic looks like showing up as your truest, happiest self, and separating yourself from the people who are projecting their own insecurities and deepest fears onto you. Wearing stuff that makes you feel pretty and confident and feminine. And the older I get, honestly, I want to be bad. I'm a bad bitch, like I'm not trying to do this frilly innocent. I've never been that, I am proudly a first daughter, tall black woman with a deep voice who is very confident and high achieving and aspirational, and I'm living in my truest self. That is enough for me because I know at my very core, I was raised to be feminine and I am feminine. And the things that people deemed were feminine are not what defines your femininity. You define your femininity if you believe you are feminine. Before I go, I want to just give a huge virtual hug to all of my tall girls. People will never understand what we've been through. It's not something that's like out there and crazy and drastic. It is a slow burn that we have been subjugated to. It is something that has affected our self-image very slowly. Tall women are beautiful. We are beautiful. And that's something that honestly, I have never once faulted on. I have always believed that tall women are beautiful. I just didn't understand why other people didn't. If you're a tall girl, just know that you are loved. Don't get so caught up in the physicalities. Those are not defining your femininity. You can exercise your definition of beauty and femininity exactly how you see fit. And truly, it's in how you carry yourself. It's in how confident you are. And it's in your personality. I think femininity has a lot more to do with your personality than it does to do with your physicality. So remember to always carry yourself with confidence, with poise, with grace, and to carry yourself unapologetically, because nobody does it like us, and I really mean nobody. I encourage you guys to comment your own experiences on this, and I hope this was helpful just to hear some, hopefully some similar experiences and get some insight into what it was like for me growing up as a tall girl and how I'm navigating my life now. If you want a part 2 on how I'm navigating my life as a tall black woman through stereotypical femininity, make sure you leave a comment and make sure you like and subscribe. Bye guys.